Doing this Colorado concealed carry lecture. I had to do some improvision. Messed up. Thought I had a classroom at Pikes Peak Gun Club, but I don't. So we came to Starbucks, and so we're going to make it happen. So we're halfway through the lecture already, and we talked about um, self-defense, deadly physical force, storage laws, etc. So we're going to continue on with our lecture, and I have my two customers here. I haven't talked to them about being on social media yet, so I'm not going to mention their names or show their faces unless they give me the permission. So here we go. Let's talk about the child storage and safety example. Okay, there's plenty of storage mechanisms out there, and we're going to go over a couple of examples, some good, some bad. Now for this one, what do we think about a lock that goes on the trigger? What do we think about that?
I feel like if you're in a situation where you need to use your gun, it's effective.
Well, yeah, for sure. You're exactly right. So if there's a situation you need to use your firearm, let me just get this key. No big deal. I think that on some of these you actually have to pull the trigger too, right? So that would not be good unless you're clearing a firearm, which we'll cover some clearing firearms later. But also remember about vehicle storage. This is not suitable in accordance with Colorado law. It's not suitable for vehicle storage. It has to be, remember, it has to be an opaque container that's lockable. Okay? What?
Opaque.
So it's solid color, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
So does it have to be like a specified gun container, or can it
Nope.
be anything?
It can be anything.
Like you can just thrift some plastic.
Correct.
With a lock on it.
Correct. As long as there's lockable.
Like even like crappy.
Yep.
Doesn't matter what
Like a
kind of
little
lock,
sparkly
right?
container.
Doesn't matter. What's that?
Doesn't
No,
matter.
it doesn't matter what kind of lock or anything like that. No. It can be just a container,
Does it have to be like a
hard-sided.
Hard-sided.
It can be code lock. Yep, 100%. Okay. What about this one? What do we think about that one?
I mean, I get it maybe for some, like maybe you want to put your rifles so your kids can,
Sure. Yeah. I mean,
but they still have to be locked up anyways.
Yeah.
Right up in your house.
I mean, this might be good. This might be good for a hunting rifle or maybe a shotgun or something, but definitely not for self-defense purposes. Okay. It's a little bit better because you don't have to go find the key,
Right. I didn't know they had these.
but you have to maintain the battery, right? So, all right. What about this one? I don't know if everybody can see this. We're talking about storage options.
I like
I've
it.
never even seen anything like
You can
that.
just do beep boop boop.
What was it? Beep boop beep. So this is perfect not only for your home, but it's also perfect for your vehicle, right? If it's mobile, obviously, right? This is affixed to a desk. There is a code, and you can have your loaded firearm in that lockable container, and that code can be given to anybody that needs to have access. For example, my brother-in-law comes, I give him access to my codes because he's a firearms trainer in California. I trust him with the firearm, and that's just more people to defend my property and my family that are competent. Okay. On that, when it comes to code versus biometrics, I would opt for code. So 1, 2, 3, 4, for example, or whatever code you're going to use. Okay. Here's why. The biometrics ones have a storage capacity. Okay. So if, for example, again, let's use my brother-in-law for example. If I had one of the ones with biometrics, I would want my right hand and my left hand able to access it, right? I would want my wife's right hand and her left hand able to access it, right? That only maybe leaves a little bit of storage for somebody else. With a code, you can just give the code, and if you have to change it, you can change it. No big deal. I'm not going to bore you with my video here. I got to redo it anyway. But anyway, so I got to redo it. There are several different boxes that we could talk about. The box that comes with the firearm itself, probably not a good choice. I could literally, even whatever lock it is, I could literally just grab the lock and just twist it, and then I break the box itself. I don't have to break the lock, I break the plastic.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Because it's not robust.
Somebody broke the plastic,
Uh,
but it was
uh,
a lockbox.
well, would you? No. No, you're talking about that's your firearm in your lockbox. No. No, because you did the right thing according to law.
Okay.
Okay? Now, if somebody came and grabbed it and then took the lock and twisted it off, for example, all right? Also, it depends on the strength of the person, all this other stuff. But even if it wasn't, even if you couldn't do that, you could just do it with tools, right? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. None of them are foolproof.
So, yeah, exactly. So let me go through this here. Let me find. I wish I would have brought some visual aids. Let me turn this down and I'll play it. So this is the box that comes in the canic. Okay, there's plastic portions where I can put a lock, but they're bless you, but they're very flimsy. And again, I can just take whatever lock it is and I can just defeat the box itself. Also, on the edge of the box, that's where the pivot is. You can just slide those things right out, and then now you open the box, right? So, no good. This is my favorite for air travel, and we'll talk about air travel in a minute. So it's metal. It requires one key. A handgun can go in there with a couple different magazines, and you can lock it, and you can't pry it open. You could potentially take a punch and punch the back where the hinge is. You can punch that out, but it would take a lot more effort. If that makes sense. Okay. This orange box right here, that's for multiple different firearms. It locks great. It's a very robust plastic. You can't just take the lock and twist it, for example. Okay. Let me get to my home storage. So this right here, there's a code on top of it. And oh man, what happened? Oh my gosh. Sorry guys. Let me get right there. Right there. Or there. Oh no. Did I pass it?
I think so.
Oh man. You guys can see it right there.
Yeah.
But that's a dual pistol lockbox coded. So in my bedroom, I've got it. Firearms loaded inside. I'm comfortable with that. That's fine. My wife's firearms loaded inside. I'm comfortable with that. That's fine. You know what I'm saying? And my wife and I have a plan. If there's something nefarious going downstairs, we have a plan of action on how we're going to do that. Because she's going to have to be responsible for our child. I'll be responsible for not letting anybody upstairs, kind of thing, if that makes sense, right? So I would encourage you guys with your boyfriends to have some kind of plan, right? Who's going to grab what firearm, when, and where's that person going to go? Machete. Dude, if you had a machete and you came at like a burglar, you would just freak them out.
I know.
They'd be like, "What?"
I know. After that Idaho thing happened, the girls got stabbed in it.
Oh, yeah.
I started sleeping with a machete.
Smart. Yeah.
Yeah.
Better than nothing.
What's up, guys? We're here at Starbucks doing a concealed carry class of all places. All right. Okay, so let's talk about. We're going to talk about red flag laws. Okay, here in Colorado, they're called ERPOs, Extreme Risk Protective Orders. I have my issues with the law. I know it can be abused by both sexes. It's there to. I like the intent of it, but I know it can and it has been abused. I've actually been a victim of abusing a law like that in California. I had to get my firearms up for a short stint, and luckily she didn't show up for a court hearing, and everything got thrown out. So, because what judge would look at a female, and the female is saying, "Well, my boyfriend or my husband did X, Y, and Z to me." What judge is going to sit there and say, "Well, I don't believe you"? You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? So there's definitely some abuse of the law, and I wish it wasn't like that, because the law has good intent. That said, statistically speaking, I looked up the statistics on this. If of the people who can actually petition the court for ERPO, law enforcement officers tend to favor law enforcement officers way more than they favor these other entities that we're going to talk about. Okay. So let's cover some more definitions specifically to the ERPOs. Okay, can I get my words correct? Community member means a licensed health care professional or mental health professional who, through the direct professional relationship, provided care to the respondent or the respondent's child within 6 months before requesting the protection order, or an educator who, through the direct professional relationship, interacted with the respondent or the respondent's child within the last 6 months before requesting a protection order. Okay? Educator means a teacher employed to instruct students or a school administrator in a school district, private school, charter school, institute, or an individual charter school, or a faculty member at the institution of higher education. A faculty member means a president, dean, professor, administrator, instructor, or research worker at an institution of a higher education. All right. Now, that we covered some of the definitions there. Family or household member means with respect to the respondent. So let's say you being the respondent. So somebody files it, you're the respondent, right? You're respondent and defendant. You'll be defending yourself, of course. A person related by blood or marriage or adoption. Person who has a child in common with the respondent, regardless of whether the person has been married to the other person. A person who regularly resides or regularly resided with the respondent within the last 6 months. A domestic partner of the respondent, a person who has a biological or legal parent-child relationship with the respondent, including step-parents, stepchildren, grandparents, and grandchildren. A person who is acting or has acted to the respondent's as the respondent's legal guardian. A person that falls in the intimate relationship category or definition, which means a relationship between spouses, former spouses, past or present unmarried couples, persons who are both the parents of the same child, regardless of whether the person has been married or have lived together at any time. That's a lot of people. So, in summary, get to it. A family or household member of the respondent, community member, or law enforcement officer or agency may request a temporary extreme risk protection order without notice if any of the following can request an extreme risk protection order against you: healthcare professional, mental health professional, teacher or school administrator, the president, dean, professor, administrator, instructor, or researcher or in a college or a university, law enforcement officer, spouse, former spouse, relative, or other parent or legal guardian, past or present lovers. Now, I think looking into the definitions in the law, most of that has to be within 6 months. I think. Like, I'm not a lawyer, but the way I'm reading it, it sounds like 6 months is the mark. So, for example, my ex-wife, who lives out of state, can't come to the state and petition the court because we've been divorced for some time, right? Otherwise, maybe she would be able to. If that makes sense, right? So, 6 months. Again, it seems as if law enforcement officers do petition the court for the ERPOs, they get granted most of the time. If other entities request, then there's a lot more scrutiny on the ERPO, at least for now. So that's a good thing. If the court finds it to be a legit claim, they have to notify the respondent within 24 hours. Then they have to have a hearing within 14 business days. the respondent is supposed to surrender all firearms. The peace officer who is issuing the notification is supposed to take those firearms. If the respondent provides the firearms, for example, again, they need to have a robust list of serial number, make, and model, and purchase history, right? Because I'll cover it in a minute, but basically you need to have that on hand if you want to recover those later. Okay. If the law enforcement, let's say one of you are the respondent, and law enforcement comes to your house, and you notify the law enforcement officers like, "Hey, I plan to sell these." They're still going to take possession of them until you coordinate this sale. That makes sense. When the extreme risk protection order expires, you have a year to recover those from the law enforcement office. Okay, that's where your serial number, make, model, and purchase history is going to come into effect. Okay. Unclaimed firearms after a year, law enforcement officers can dispose of them. They don't have to necessarily destroy them, just dispose of them, okay? Okay, so in summary. Oh, I didn't cover, excuse me. I think I skipped over one, which is very important. I'll just cover it real quick. I thought it was in here. I must have accidentally deleted or done something stupid like that. Yeah. So let's cover it real quick. Within your home, within your dwelling, you have the absolute right to safety within your home, and the law states currently you can use any amount of force within your home, to include deadly physical force, to remove that threat from your home, okay, or to stop the threat. And you are immune, it says shall be immune, from civil and criminal liability. So if somebody is in your home unlawfully, doesn't matter why they're there, you can stop the threat. Correct. You shall be immune from civil and criminal liability. Remember, we were talking about the curtilage earlier. If they're outside of your home, that doesn't count. But I'm not saying shoot them and then bring them in, right? That would be tampering with evidence, okay? All right.
Get in here.
Now, if you said get in here, now you invited them, all right? So.
So does it matter what their imminent danger to you in your home? So say for instance you got drunk one night, someone got drunk, and then you go into the wrong house. That person can kill you, and you would be.
Yep, 100%. 100%, right? Because here's the thing, right? I love this law because I don't know, if you break into my house, I don't know why you're there. Are you there to do my child harm? Are you there to do my wife harm? Me harm? Are you there to rob me? What are you there for? You're not supposed to be there. And if you're drunk and you come into my house, I still don't know what your intent is. I have to assume that your intent is going to be pretty nefarious, considering you came on my property without permission, you got into my house without permission. Now, what else are you willing to do?
Is that the make my day law? Is that the same thing?
No, I'm not. I know there's a make my day law in like Texas or whatever, but this isn't it. No, this is more of a castle doctrine, right?
Okay.
The castle, the curtilage is not part of your castle. So, for example, if this was a home, let's say a dwelling as per Colorado law, there's a reasonable expectation that somebody would come to the front door. Okay? there's not a reasonable expectation for somebody to walk in the front door without being invited. That's the difference, right? This is why police officers can come to your front door and knock on the door, right? They can be there. Now, if you tell them to leave the property and they don't have a warrant, for example, then they have to leave the property, kind of a thing. This is also the reason why, if they're on the curtilage of your home and they see inside your home, let's say you had cocaine laying out on it, they're like, oh, that's evidence. They can actually go and retrieve that evidence, even though it's in your home, because it's line of sight doctrine.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. So if somebody is in your home, physically in your home, and there's actually case law here in Colorado about this here recently. There's a judge that ruled, this story goes something like this. There's a guy inside of his home. There's a screen door there. Someone else is on the other side, yelling or whatever. The guy inside the home shoots him through the screen door. The guy the homeowner or whatever is now in jail because the guy was on the other side of the screen door on the curtilage or in the curtilage of the house, not within the home.
What if they had a gun? I forgot what
That's a different story. Remember, imminent threat, right? So now we're talking about a different thing. We're not talking about inside your home. We're talking about an imminent threat, either in or outside your home. It doesn't matter. Imminent threat is imminent threat, right? So it just kind of depends, right?
What if they had a different weapon?
Well, that's what she was just saying.
But not just like, I'm thinking, what if they had a rock in there?
A rock?
Could you make a reasonable argument that there was imminent threat?
That's a good question. Maybe. Now there's a screen door between you and the person, right? So maybe if the door was open, maybe. But you would have to be able to articulate that to a jury of your peers potentially.
That'd be the hard part.
You see what I'm saying? You really need to be damn sure that's an imminent threat before using deadly physical force. Unless they're in your home. Which I love. I love that. All right.
My sister's husband did that. He was really drunk and then, fell asleep in someone else's house.
Got in a lot of trouble for it. A lot. I think it was
Yeah, I know
like,
some people do that in high school. Their husband answered the rifle, and he was like, "Come in, Dad."
Dude. Oh, man. Yeah, you'd be waking up with a barrel in your face for sure in my home. All right. Okay, so we're going to talk about federal laws now. So,
Real quick, was that other
Yeah.
law about the dwelling? Is that a federal? Is that just in Colorado?
that's just Colorado. So we just covered state laws. All the things that we just talked about are state laws. Now we're going to cover some federal laws, okay, which are very broad, right? Some of them restrict things. Some of them actually give us more protection, and we'll cover that in a minute. All right. So Title 18 Code Chapter 44 deals with general firearm federal laws, okay? I encourage you to do your own research on this and just kind of go through some of those laws because everything that I give you here today is just like a 30,000-foot view, okay? Enough for you to understand what you are legally able to do and legally required to do, if that makes sense. Good? Cool. Okay, so the National Firearm Act of 1934, basically what this does is it allows the federal government to exercise a tax on suppressors, short-barreled rifles, short-barreled shotguns. Okay? Right there. So this is known as NFA, okay? NFA 1934. So when this law was enacted, it was a deterrent for people to get a firearm. So, for example, an actual machine gun was like, let's say, $50 back in the day. Okay, $200 tax stamp on top of that. Okay, today it's not $50. A firearm, a good pistol, is going to cost you around $500, right? Decent pistol to carry, so on and so forth. But if you want an suppressor for it, $200 tax stamp. So it's It's not really a deterrent anymore. In fact, they just passed the law, the big beautiful bill, which actually takes the tax from $200 down to $0. Yeah. So you can, and I think there's some nuances here in Colorado about that. I'm not sure what the deal is, but basically you can get a short-barreled rifle, short-barreled shotgun, or suppressor right now, 0 tax, but you still have to register those things with the federal government, right? It's called a Form 1 or Form 4, depending on if you're going to make it or buy it. Yeah.
It's basically all guns, though, right?
No.
No.
No. So short-barreled rifle is a rifle that's under, the barrel length is under 16 inches. 16 inches and lower, okay? If it's over 16 inches, let's say 16 and a half, it's not a short-barreled rifle anymore. And then it has to be designed to shoulder. Short-barrel shotgun is an 18-inch barrel, okay? And it has to be designed to shoulder. Should be that would be a regular shotgun. Anything under 18 inches. And then suppressors are just suppressors, right? Little known fact, you can still possess machine guns, but you have to go through a bunch of hoops just to get an automatic firearm, right? So that's why you don't typically see them, right? So there's a lot of stuff involved there. Okay, the Gun Control Act of 1968. Okay, among the other major provisions of the Gun Control Act, this established a minimum age for purchases, 18. The requirement that all firearms shall be affixed with a serial number, and the expansion of the cartridges, categories of prohibited persons. Okay, so 18 is the minimum age required federally. Okay, and then this is when firearms had to be affixed with a serial number. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, for example, right? Okay. All right, FOIPA, or the Firearms Owners Protection Act of 1986, prevents the federal government from maintaining a central database of firearm dealer records. Okay, so when you go purchase a firearm, you purchase it from an FFL, or Federal Firearms Licensee. The licensee maintains records, but the ATF does not maintain centralized database of records. Does that make sense? They're not supposed to. Not supposed to. We'll see. But anyway, so that's what that does. The Firearms Owner Protection Act of 86, remember we had the 68, 68, and then now we have an 86 one, okay? This is also called the Peaceable Journey Law, okay? This is basically saying that you can travel through the country with your firearm, and if you have to go through a state that's let's say less friendly to the Second Amendment, let's say Illinois. If you travel from here, you said you're from Pennsylvania, right? So let's say you travel from here to Pennsylvania and you have to go through Illinois. I don't know if you have to, but let's say you do. All right. Well, Illinois doesn't recognize any other state's CCW. They don't recognize it. So you can't carry in their state legally, okay? But what this is saying is that if you wanted to travel through there, you would have to have it in a lockbox, unloaded, and ammo separate from the firearm. Right?
Okay.
Well, yeah, I don't know about the magazine exact, but the ammunition has to be separate, and then it has to be out of reach, and then you have to travel through the state without stopping. Now, stopping, I think this is my interpretation. I think stopping means staying there, like at a hotel or something. Now, if you stop to get gas, I don't think that's it. But that brings me to another point. If cops ever pull you over for any reason whatsoever, the only thing you have to give them is your name, ID, address. That's it. You don't have to tell them anything. And they're like, do you have any firearms? Here, specifically here in Colorado, you don't have to tell them that you have firearms. You do not.
What if you say no? You're out.
Well, don't say no. That would be lying. That'd be a whole different issue, right?
Let's just say that.
What do you say?
Nothing. Silence. Silence is powerful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say you don't have to be polite.
Okay.
Okay, you can be polite. You're like, officer, I gave you all my information. This is all the information you're going to get from me. Unless you're going to arrest or detain me, I'd like to be on my way.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because they have to have, when they pull you over, they have to have probable cause. Now, that probable cause is going to be a little bit different because you're in your vehicle versus your home, okay? But whatever that probable cause is, they have to have probable cause to get you to come out, detain you, do all that stuff. And then if you give them permission to search your vehicle for whatever reason, anything they find in your vehicle now can be admissible in court. Whereas if you don't give them permission and you don't talk to them at all, other than, hey, this is where I live, this is my name, my address, so on and so forth. Okay, yeah, I work over here, whatever. Not to say that you have anything illegal in your vehicle, but they don't need to know what the hell's in your vehicle unless they have probable cause, right? But we are not a duty to tell, to notify, state. Now you just, again, you choose your own adventure on this. Me personally, if I'm carrying, I would say, because I'm a lawful citizen and I'm a lawful gun owner, I would say, yes, Your Honor, I have a firearm. It's on my right hip, and I would have my hands visibly seen.
Right.
And I've done this in several states, and every single time I've done it, they've said something like, well, don't reach for it, we won't have a problem. Perfect. You see what I'm saying? Most law enforcement officers, at least in my experience, have been reasonable when it comes to that.
Can you drive with it?
Yep.
Or-
Absolutely. Well,
Only if
it's
you're
open.
concealed.
It's an open carry state. And when you're in your vehicle, you're not concealed carrying anymore because you're in your vehicle. That's like saying you can't carry in your home,
Right.
right?
That's true, yeah.
So,
Okay,
so yeah, you can carry on
It's
your
only when it has to be locked up when you're not in the vehicle.
when you're going somewhere that you're not allowed to have a firearm,
Okay.
like
Done.
post office or something like that, right? Okay. So, if you don't believe me, we're going to listen to a lawyer now. So there's a couple of YouTube channels that I'll watch. They're all lawyers. This guy, which is Washington Gun Law, great, wonderful. He covers a bunch of different states' laws. It's actually not just Washington. And then there's Attorneys on Retainer, which I'm an affiliate of, and I'm also a member of Attorneys on Retainer. We'll cover them in a minute. They're awesome. They're out of Arizona. Then there's Armed Attorneys, which is out of Texas. So those are the three. And then there's one that he knows his stuff. He's a constitutional lawyer, all this other stuff, but he's so dry. And I'm like, but that's Four Boxes Diner. So those are the four main YouTube channels that I watch to stay up to date on things, okay? Especially when it's coming from lawyers, okay? All right, so let's listen to them.
Practicing lawyers, right?
Yeah. I don't know if you guys can hear it.
As FOIPA. Now, this was passed during the Reagan administration. It was meant to address some of the constitutional concerns that had come out of the Gun Control Act of 1968. And despite the fact that there had been several pieces of significant litigation on that piece of legislation, there were still...
All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and stop this. You guys want concealed carry stuff for Colorado? Hit me up. Back out.